Hey, 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 what's up? Welcome to the second episode of Reading Club, The Thinkers. Very excited to be here on the second episode. Today, we are going to continue our journey with the book from Carl Jung, Man and His Symbols. Before we go on, I want to tell you too that unfortunately, Marisabel Fernandes, the thinker, could not be here. Unfortunately, it's sad, but she left with me his Portuguese versions of their texts that I'm going to translate in real time, and let's go on and on and on. Okay. Before we proceed, I want to tell you also that I brought two texts, and we are going to get rock and roll. Okay. Any question you want to make, please do it. I know we have one viewer at this moment right there, so feel free to ask some questions or talk, because I'm really excited to be here. I hope you did not hear the fan. I expect you to not hear the fan. This goddamn fly only appears here when I turn up this light. I don't know where they come from. Well, okay. So, let's go. The second thought. In Carl Jung, in page 23 of the book Man and His Symbols, there is a second thought that sometimes it grows and appears from an action that we make. This second thought, it is unconscious or suppressed in the moment. This demonstrates, and this is demonstrated and we see when somebody goes to a restaurant of a fast food chain and asks for a food that is from hyperdopaminergic trait, meaning addictive, artificial, with the primary thought of let's go there, eat some fast food menu as an invite of the group to socialize, right? This is the person thinking, generating secondary thoughts of pleasure during the consuming, underlying the main thought, like I need more of this ice cream. Such a good ice cream, such a good fast food, such a good hamburger. This is very bad. This is a lot better than salad, which is typical from adolescent, for example, easily would have these types of second thoughts, second personalities growing from this act, even though when it tells mom or dad or to itself that it's only once in a while. So how many? So many and so many that not that they also don't tell that to themselves in a conscious way, but they can develop in an unconscious when the dialogue is other. That is for eating as much as for altruistic acts, where the person socially manifests in a way when behind it it has and demonstrates an unilateral smile, or in English, this is a translation, smirk or duping delight. That even though this attitude is aligned with the right act, and even though the feeling, which is how we perceive emotion, but easily in a second social group with perspectives and different norms, the person reacts, respond, and comment about altruistic act in a different way, understanding and commenting in a way of responding to the group. Yep, we have to make ourselves like we are angels and very altruistic persons, so we can maintain the appearance and reputation. It's good to have that in that group. You know how bosses are. We have to let a good image. A personality that was right to act, so well formed, quick-witted, that emerges in a natural way in a moment more later, in a later moment, noticing it out clearly, the path to go to the individuation, the union of the unconscious with the conscious. Yet it could be followed by by feelings of guilt later, very easily for some psychological types that Mary Isabel will talk about. But unfortunately, she could not be here today because of family motives. But not bad. Today it was a good motives. Also, under reflection, the person can notice that what must occurred through reflection, postulating hypothesis of the why, deviating of the attitude between the two groups, the two different groups, in an action that was so harmonious, like an altruistic act. Or why in the next day the person is looking for ice cream, when there is people that have such a strong construct about the why they do not do, that they seem to have a wall that is bulletproof, such for these unhealthy behaviors as much for other healthy behaviors. It's not even an option looking the other way around for them, for these people, that they have such a strong walls, like cognitive walls of why that's not an option. It's amazing. And it's the union of conscious and unconscious, I believe. An idea to the world in the reading club, The Thinkers. This, the time I'm going to talk about next, is about a Portuguese word, and its meanings can vary depending on the country you are. But I think you can and will see the parallels. Have you noticed that the word humble has one of the several meanings associated to her, without many pretensions? Obscure, poor, mediocre, person simple, submissive, poor person. So here there is somebody that wants to be humble. Why not replace the word humble for one that maybe it is more accordingly to what socially maybe you want to pass? Maybe it is a person that is responsible for their acts, honest, sincere. In the end, if the person does not share his supposed errors, it doesn't mean that the person has committed errors, because the person can be right. We, as society, can interpret that something is an error, or to be more precise, we are as groups. Society, that's very hard, right? It should have been something that it is very public in the long spectrum. So, until which point words have a feeding of these two type of thoughts. At the end, after we see these different meanings that we can attribute to a word, I don't want to call nobody humble. At the end, that means and implies that somebody not have such high pretensions, or that may signify that. And there's no problem with that, of course, of not having such high pretensions, but I believe you got my point, taking in consideration what I said previously. Not that it is better in certain situations to signify in a different way how a simple person. It is not better to signify in a different way, like a very simple person, very simple, replacing humble, or maybe use responsible for their acts. It is a person that is responsible for their acts instead of using humble. Which second thoughts degenerates in the person? Even though, or with certainty, we have already seen somebody calling other humble, and we applaud collectively. But after that, we easily also saw a distinctive look to this person, in the meaning of looking like who says one of the alternative meanings that the person has, or that the word has, or it's apparent that it has. Simple, modesty without many pretensions, even though it has a positive cultural meaning that is well attached, and I think that's positive. When I say distinctive look, is a look that is not such a look of applauding and highlighting a person that is humble, but more in the opposite way of the words I've said. I believe that's a nice way to translate it, and that's some more context. Or others. When have we seen the word humble being used socially in an accent and a tone that it does not have such a high value? It's actually the opposite of valuing somebody. It's devaluing somebody. Okay. Some never saw this. Others understand what I mean. For those who never saw, the idea it is a word has multiple meanings, and these will generate a world of different meanings in the head of who received them, in the head of who is not in with the individuation in itself. And I'm not individuated or in the individuation phase, but I'm certainly in the path. Also, this second thought can appear in an unconscious way through its suppression. And I quote the text of Carl Jung in page 23 of the book Men and His Symbols. This second thought can appear, for example, in the form of a dream. Generally, the unconscious aspect of an event, it is revealed to us through dreams, where this manifests not like a rational thought, but as an image that is symbolic. End of quote. That easily could be the case in the fast food chain. The dream of the hamburger following the other person while this person runs. Making like this, the unconscious arising in the mind of the individual, like if he must stop or be aware of his consumption of fast food, because this consumption can end or consume his health, or simply, make him rethink and recalculate the dangers of the consuming of fast food can bring to him. At the end, he knows in one way or another that this substance is addictive. It can make him want to eat again, and again, and again, and again, making it an addiction, or even in a conscious way, something that it is not good for the health of nobody. In a summary, the argument it is there is the growing of a personality different than the one that it is demonstrated, sustained, and initiated by this second thought. Okay, that is underlying of the first thought. That can be fed by the consumption, by if it continues in a spontaneous way, or reflective, or refuted, or slowed down with intensive reflection and genuine, or spontaneously stopping. Okay? This profound reflection too, of which the true meaning of the consumption, not a superficial, appears, and we go on with our lives, with our wall more fortified. And I make another quote to Carl Gustav Jung. What we call psyche cannot in any way be identified with our conscious or its content. Page 23, Men and These Symbols. I want to add that if it's not reflected or thought, this consumption can become bigger and bigger, as big as it can become in the unconscious, creating a dragon that is bigger and bigger as days go by, that even the person making an effort to not see it, the part of the person that knows the conscious, not unconscious mind, the conscious, not the conscious mind, the consciousness, that's the right word, consciousness, emerge several times throughout life, even though the individual suppress or undervalorize it. Sometimes it can be enough to look with more attention. Thank you. Any questions, any comments, feel free to step in. Okay, I'm going to the next text of Marisabel Fernandes, which is intuition and creativity. And she starts with a quote to Carl Jung, page 23 of this book, Men and His Symbols. Like the conscious content that can okay, I'm sorry, I really am looking to see how I can translate these words. Like the conscious content can fade up to the unconscious, new content that were never conscious can emerge from the conscious. We can have the impression, for example, that something it is about to become conscious, that is something in the air, or it is something that is about to emerge. The discovery of the unconscious, it is not one simple deposit of the past, but is also full of germs, of ideas, and psychical future situations which brought me into a new attitude and person to psychology. So he became a new person and make him become a new person and having a new attitude in psychology. A lot of controversy has emerged in respect to this, but the fact is, besides memories of having a conscious past and far away, also thoughts, entirely new and creative ideas can emerge from the unconscious. Ideas and thoughts that were never conscious. I think this paragraph is really deep, in my opinion. And it reminds me the importance of mental hygiene, really. There's no thought that it is completely eradicated from the mind, let's say. When thought after enters on the mind, it has its own life, it's not killed with argumentation, let's say, which is really interesting. When we analyze this part of the book, Men and These Symbols, now it is a text from Isabel, we identify some phenomenon like inspiration. For example, a writer can have a brilliant idea for a romance during a dream, or a scientist can have an insight about a complex problem while he takes a shower. Examples of creativity that are fed by repertoire of studies about certain matter, or an intuition, feelings that something is going to happen even without having any evidence that are concrete. It can be a sign of the unconscious. It is processing information that it is not arrived yet to conscious. And even the deja vu, which is a sensation of already have feeling and determine a certain situation, can be an indication that the unconscious it is recognizing something familiar even in the unconscious level. Lots of times we don't know where it is the term, where certain idea, but the truth it is that everything it is recorded in us, even if it is unconscious. A music, a smell, a word, a book, everything cross our whole existence. We have no idea of the powerful machine that it is our brain, and of the extreme importance of maintaining in the meaning of feeding it with quality of information, relationships of quality, environments that we meet, meaning everything in our life must be selected with very with a very sensible touch and zeal. I hope that's a word in English, meaning like having love for it, for ourselves. So our mental repertoire, it become also of high quality. Good movies, good books, good conversations. News quote to Carl Jung. The capacity of our psyche to produce this new material, it is particularly significant when we are talking about the symbolism of the dream. Since my professional experience proved me repeatedly that images and ideas that are contained in the dream, they cannot be explained only in terms of memory. They express new thoughts that not yet haven't got to the linear of consciousness. Page 38. New quote, page 50. Like this, dreams sometimes can reveal certain situations a lot more further before they really happened. This is not necessarily a miracle or a way of prevision or prediction. Lots of crises of our life have a long unconscious history. End of quote, page 50. Hey guys, feel free to comment. Okay. According to the perspective of Jung, the crises that we face in life are not isolated events, but yes, the result of unconscious processes that develop a long time. Lots of times, such crises reflect patterns of behavior and relationships that repeat along the life, indicating a presence of unconscious complexes. A person can evolve repeatedly in toxic relationships, revealing an unconscious pattern that seeks approval or recognition. Yet, dreams can reveal deep feelings and unknown to its own dreamer. Like in the case of the patient of Jung, which dream would be jumping to the infinite of the point of the cliff, or a woman that was lost in the forest and which dream jumping to reality in a species of self prophecy that was realized. Hope that makes sense. Quote again to page 28. There is even certain events that we are not conscious. They sustain, you know, in a way to say it, below. They persist in the below the linear of consciousness, and they happened, but they were absorbed subliminally, without any of our conscious knowledge. We can only understand it in some moment of intuition or by a process of intense reflection that takes us to the subsequent realization that it must have happened. And even though we have ignored originally its emotional importance and vital, later they appear from the unconscious like like kind of a second thought. Not even the events that we vividly that we vividly that vividly that vivid that we experientiate are consciously processed. Lots of times they like go under to our unconscious without that we understand their importance at the moment. Even though these subliminal memories they can emerge later, influencing our thoughts and feelings in a way that is not expected, is likely for brain saves the information that were hidden, that are only revealed in moments of profound reflection or intuition. End of the text. I love this text. It's such a challenge to look for the right environment sometimes, or the best environments for us. I feel like I'm on that path right now. Where's my best fucking environment to be? Where I can grow the best possible way. Okay. This text was called Intuition and Creativity from Isabel Fernandes. Now I'm going to my own text. It is my second text. And it is called Introduction of João Rangel Silva to Dream Analysis. Dreams are a way of the unconscious wanting to communicate to psyche, doing it in a healthy way, meaning in a way where ego mechanisms of the defense are below, allowing the fantasies and imagination, even the wildest one, of our psyche to manifest in itself freely. During your dreams, there is no rules. Everything can happen. And not because of that, there's lots of people that think that it does not transmit any type of information. I always question myself, or part of me that sometimes would gain the consciousness. Why? But as I could not get my response, or I thought I couldn't, I didn't look. Curious, I ended discovering this while crushing into Carl Jung's books and work. I believe it exists meaning, even though it has some peculiar how the hell I say this word? Recipe, not recipe. Remnants. Somehow, even though it has some remnants that look for meaning and explore one dream or another. Why? For what? Why this? Meaning, even though I had memories of some remnants in me, some remnants, I hope that's the right word. Remnant. Some small pieces of me that were looking for answers of why dreams, why that, for what. I have memories in child of having a nightmare or other once in a while, but in adulthood and during my adolescence, not so much. Even though recently, last years, I've had like one or two. My mind tells me max two while I write this text. It seems to me a tranquil mind, or an unconscious that is tranquil. Quiet. Tranquil is quiet. So it seems a quiet mind or a quiet unconscious. But consciousness, but the consciousness wasn't quiet, definitely. Inverted paradigm at the end, or second thoughts, suppressed or subliminal, that we are not conscious, they manifest later in dreams or sometimes. Carl Jung says our dreams can be looked as warnings for a path that we are following and we don't want. I quote page 49. The dream This is not the right translation. Compensate. The dream compensates the deficits of personalities, and at the same time it prevents from the dangers of its actual from the actual path. Current path, that's a better way to put it out. If the warnings of the dream are rejected, they can turn to be real, meaning real accidents can happen. The person can fall from a stair or have a car crash or disaster. End of the quote to Carl Jung, page 49. And it gives an example of the person in which Carl Jung have read his dream like imminent danger that could happen, and Jung tried to persuade him to stop, and he didn't. 6 months later he died. If you want, I can tell you the story. If not, it is on the 5th page of the book Carl Jung, Man and His Symbols. And this book that is cited here, it is a Portuguese version. So English, it is different. Probably. Accordingly to Jung, dreams can reveal situations far away before they happened. Curious to note that accordingly to Matthew Walker, specialist in sleep, it is probable that during every dream that exists in the world each night, a good part of them it is predicting the future. It is predictive correctly of the predicting correctly the future. It is, according to what I read in Matthew Walker, a statistical truth. I'm still looking to see more about this topic because it seems interesting. Accordingly to Jung, lots of crises that people go through have already a long unconscious history, long time ago. Also, also reinforces the idea that what the conscious doesn't pick on, the unconscious picks on and brings that information to dreams, for example. Also, it is interesting to explore the fact that the dreams, they also not warn us always, or not accordingly to Carl Jung. Every ingenuity about dreams should be removed. At the end, these can also bring catastrophic messages that can make the person to get himself in danger or in a bad path, meaning to get himself in a bad path, to harm itself. The dreams, according to the author, are not from the human spirit, but yes, like not a belief, a blow of the nature, something that is very good but also can be cruel, even though because dreams sometimes they prove to be traps, according to Carl Jung. I think is interesting and which is joyous to explore. I'm enthusiastic about the next book about dreams and its interpretations. I think it will be very useful, or disillusionment. Disillusionment. Let's see. For now, my experience, it has been positive. I like to wake up and think, if I have some time and if it is useful in the moment to me, what my dreams wanted to tell me. Woo! Very well. Thank you for the friend that is watching the live stream. Thank you for being here listening and watching to the reading club, The Thinkers. I am going to proceed to the next and last text from Marisabel Fernandes. And this text is called The Problems of Types, Psychological Types, Marisabel Fernandes. Quote to page 59 of book Man and His Symbols, Carl Jung. It will be logically impossible to formulate or teach any theory psychologically, in any psychological theory, if we limit ourselves to describing a portion of isolated cases, without any effort to verify what they have in common in what they differ. End of quote. The first characteristic that is based was chosen by Jung. It is extroversion and introversion. That accordingly to the author Jung, they possess points of view different and contraries that are contrary to one another. Start of the quote, page 60. Extroversion and introversion are only two between many peculiarities in human behavior. They are lots of times very obvious and easily recognizable. To study the extroverted individuals, for example, we are going to understand that differ one from another in different aspects, and that extroversion, it is so a criteria that is superficial and very generic to characterize one unique individual. So I've tried a long time ago to find other basic particularities capable of helping to put some order in differences, apparently illimited of the human individuality. End of the citation, page 60. Jung tells that there is lots of factors involved, like force of strength, temperament, imagination, memory, and so on and so on. Also, it doesn't look to be dogmatic, but in his observations of so many years of experiences, this classification was useful to him. In his observations, Jung also identified other 4 characteristics in which he thought it was appropriated to add without any classification. Based on similar behaviors, he highlighted some of these characteristics. Start of the quote. I always got impressed by the fact that a surprising number of people never utilize their own mind. Some live even without taking any consciousness about their own body. Page 50. End of quote. Other persons, quote, they look so diluted of any imagination, and they will depend entirely and exclusively on their own sensorial perception. End of citation, page 60. And in a simple and summarized manner, it explains what will be the 4 psychological types. A general classification that he would use like a starting point in his analysis. Begin of citation, page 61. The sensation, it is the sensual perception. It tells something that it exists. The thought shows us what this thing is. The feeling reveal if it's going to be pleasurable or not. And intuition will tell us where it comes from and where it goes. End of page 61. Jung elaborated a bússola. You know what a bússola is? It's the same, right? Bússola. Compass. That's, I guess, yes, I believe that's the right name. Elaborated the compass of the psyche, another Jungian way of examining the persons in general. In each point of the compass, it has a pole that is opposite. For the type thinker, there is the type feeling that is less evolved. Feeling meaning here the capacity to evaluate the experience. In the meaning of, if I say I do not feel that this is a good thing to do, end of quote, without needing to analyzing or rationalizing the why of it is not the right thing to do. Of course, there's some counterpoints to each person. One individual that acts accordingly to its sensations can possess equally strong the side of thinker or the side of sentiment, and intuition, the opposite pole, can be the more weaker one. Page 61. They are opposite, but they complement themselves. Thought, intuition, sentiment, sensation. It continues in the next episode, accordingly to Marisabel Fernandes. I hope you liked the episode of today. Now that I presented to you these 4 texts of today interpreted by me, you are free to make a little bit of a conversation with me if you want. We can talk a little bit. Feel free. Feel free. I'll give you some seconds to write some stuff. Really happy to see that we have 2 viewers simultaneously on YouTube. That's really nice. It's really cool. A little bit of a and 1 like. Okay, I believe that's all for today then. If you want to become a thinker in the Reading Club The Thinkers, feel free to join us, link in the description. And if you want to become a member, the link is the same and the steps are very similar. Thank you so much, and as always, good luck.